Hello, world. What separated your deep ball from everybody else?
My deep ball, it has a little secret sauce to it, man.
Never get too high, never get too low, but just keep moving.
The whole story is Carlos never beat me in any kind of sports in high school.
Can you feel it? Can you feel that, Zoom? Free agency is right around the corner. The most excitement that we've possibly been looking forward to for a long time, obviously since the Super Bowl, is among us. With the NFL free agency coming up, the draft combine, which you picking at 31 is not as exciting, but I feel like a lot of that joy is coming back. We are your hosts of the show. He is Zim Hude. I am Ace Boogie. Zim, what's going on today, bro?
Nut, man. I mean, it feels really good to be back on here. Like you said, I think last time I was like, man, I'm not as excited, but I'm pretty daggone excited now. Like after going through the combine, looking at a lot of different guys, I feel really good about the options. And one thing that changed with the draft in me, I really feel like a really, really legit offensive line target will be there because I do the math on the board and just look at what the other teams need. And I think that's part of my joy is I'm like, man, there's some really good options I need in there.
I think like today was a crazy day. As we're recording this is Tuesday evening. There was a lot of stuff that happened today, bro. Outside of the Bengals, the NFL was just insane today.
Well, hold on. But before we get to the NFL's crazy today, let's start off with Jesse Bates first.
Okay, let's get into it.
So Jesse Bates gets the tag. What did you feel about the situation? Did you think that was about to happen, or like what was your gut on the whole? What's going on?
So like for me, I thought I was one of those people that actually thought that there would be a chance because I wasn't talking to anybody close to the team or anything. I just felt like it would be the right thing to do. There were so many people campaigning for extend Jesse Bates that I kind of felt like, okay, this thing has a chance of happening, at least, before the deadline. The closer and closer we got, it just really made no sense for for us to extend him before it. And it didn't make any sense for him to accept an offer because when you're on the verge of free agency and you're kind of waiting for this tag deadline, there's no reason where he would have wanted to not test the market, right? Like their agents for players are always going to say, you might only get to free agency once or twice in your career, and somebody always wants to test the market. So the closer that we kind of got to it, the more it started sinking in for me. Like, I'm like, all right, like, yeah, they're definitely going to tag him now because, the situation, if they would have extended him, it would have had to have been much earlier. And so my thoughts are this. I went and started looking at some of the previously tagged players. You start out with AJ Green, and that had me worried, right? And then I start going back a little bit more. And one of the situations that might, and I'm hoping that it mirrors this situation, was the Reggie Nelson situation, where they tagged Reggie Nelson, and then after they tagged him, they immediately eventually got to an extension deal. And I'm hoping that can happen with Jesse Bates, and that it's not a situation like we've seen in some instances where you franchise tag the guy for 1 year and then the next year he might walk away. And so for me, it's just like, man, Jesse is such a great player. He's so young. Why can't these two sides make it work? But honestly, when you sit back and think about the situation, how it's playing out for both sides, it makes sense that it has to at least have this move done. So now they actually can come back to the table to try to get this done. And I'm hoping that it gets done. What about you?
I think that it my gut tells me now, I don't think it gets done. And if it does, it's just because Jesse just hits the button and says, hey, look, I forgot his agent's name. Clearly they're playing hardball. Clearly they're saying that, hey, I want to be paid one of the highest in the NFL, right? So one thing that's going to change in the next couple of weeks, whatever, wherever meeting that they could have had at, I just feel like the Bengals front office is just going to stack up more leverage in their favor. They're going to be like, bro, we just signed da-da-da-da, da-da-da-da, da-da-da-da. When we get to that cutoff date of that July 15, it ain't going to be no money left. So, like, if you're looking for 17, 18 or whatever that they were saying, which I wouldn't argue against, I feel like he is one of the best safeties in the National Football League. So he should be paid as such. Like, especially if you're telling me Jamal Adams got that money, like Jesse Bates is better than that. Jamal Adams is just a hybrid linebacker playing safety and it doesn't have coverage skills. So there's two different things. Like I always say this too, like in business, is just like it's always your perceived value versus your market value. And those two things have to marry. And I guess they just never married in this past discussion with Jesse Bates. But I think what happens is now the leverage in the back pocket of I got my franchise tag in my back pocket, they're just going to flex it even harder because they're going to say, well, we just signed, I'm just throwing this out there. We just signed Jensen. We just signed Laken Tomlinson, for example. I'm not posting this or reporting that. For example, they're going to say, yeah, the money is dried up in all these areas. Our offer that we had out there, that was our best offer. Because if it was me, that's how I would do it. If I'm the bank, I don't know if the Bengals talk like that, but I would tell Jesse Bates, like, hey, look, you've been here 4 years in our system. I truly believe in you. I'm not here to bargain with you or haggle with you. This is my best offer. And it's not going to change, like, no matter what. That's how I would do it if I'm the Bengals, right? And then maybe Jesse Bates' agent is like, yeah, no, I think they'll come down off of it. But I just know in my heart of hearts, like, no, I'm not coming down. And in fact, I'll go to the draft, and there's a lot of safeties I really like. That's the harsh side of it. If I'm the Bengals and I'm saying it, even me looking at this draft, like pick 31, there's two safeties. I mean, you know, the kid from Notre Dame, he's going to go too early. But the next safety on a, I mean, think about it. Jesse Bates was picked in the second round. There's some guy. This draft is full of defensive ends, I feel like, and it's got a lot of safeties in it as well. So, you know, like
that's real. If we being real, this is what I would say. A lot of the times, and I don't want to talk about another man's like money or anything like that, like respectfully, but at the end of the day, bro, you have to do what's best for you and your family, and not what your agent is trying to get you to do, right? So, say for instance, you get signed, and let's just say Jacksonville, right? And I'm not trying to jump on Jacksonville or anything like that, but what if you go there and you're not a scheme fit, and it's just not comfortable for you and your family down there? Is it going to be a situation like some of the Bengals that have walked away in the past where it's like Michael Johnson? I chased the money and really I didn't end up getting more money. And maybe it's a situation where if you stick with the Bengals, since you stuck with them, they generally tend to honor those contracts. I know a lot of talk has been made about guaranteed money. This was a team that kept Pac-Man Jones and paid him when a lot of teams would have cut him. They paid Leon Hall when a lot of teams would have cut him. They've paid a lot of guys that have had Bengals fans upset over the years just because even though they don't guarantee that money, they generally mostly have players last throughout those contracts. And so you just got to look at it just like the situation that TJ Watt was in with Pittsburgh last year. It came down to the guaranteed money. And even though that's our ops and I, hate them with their guts, the one thing that I respected is that TJ Watt took his agent out of the situation, walked into the front office and said, how can we get this done? Because I want to play football. Like this is something that we need to work out, and they were able to come to a deal. I'm just saying sometimes the grass isn't always greener. Like now, if they trying you with like something that's just completely not your value, by all means go and get your money. But if we arguing over, a couple of million a year, just think about other situations that you could go to where the deal might be sweet, but the coaching staff gets fired or something else happens, and then your family can't come to all of the games and stuff like that. So sometimes you just gotta think about what's best for you, and what's best for you might be standing firm and taking what you feel like you deserve, and knowing that you have a market out there for Jesse Bates. But sometimes you just want to do what's right for you. Your agent's going to do what's right for him and try to get the most money because at the end of the day, he's getting a percentage of that. So the more money you get, the more money he gets. But whatever the pros or cons may be, I think have to be weighed in that situation. And he does deserve to be treated like he is value here in Cincinnati. And I think that we do value him there. I can't speak for the front office or anything like that. But you talk to a lot of guys, TJ Houshmandzadeh, Michael Johnson, a lot of guys that left here, things changed. Look at what just happened to Carlos Dunlap. He got traded. He said he wanted to go and everything. He went out to Russell Wilson with the Seahawks. Now Russell Wilson is a Bronco. Like, just keep things like that in your mind and think about it. But we already know, like, don't get it twisted. I want Bates to get his money. I want him to be a Bengal for life. I would love that. But this is just the biggest factor of them all. Like what Zim is saying, a lot of NFL teams, it's a business. Just because somebody guarantees you that money, look at what's happening to Amari Cooper. Does not mean that they're going to keep their word. Like, that does not mean that 3 years later, after most of your guarantees are gone, that they will not cut you. Like, a lot of these teams will move on from you once that you get into the 4th and 5th year of that contract, whereas the Bengals would likely keep you, no, regardless of how you perform. Like, there's so many guys that we've talked about, Robert Geathers, all of these guys throughout the years, where Bengals fans have been like, why are they paying these guys? And that's just because the Bengals are really a loyal team. Like, even though they don't give you the guarantees up front, you usually tend to end up like surviving the most of that contract. So that's just my thoughts on it. Like, sometimes, and I'm not trying to hate on the agent or anything, but sometimes these guys let the agents get in the middle of two teams, and sometimes you feel like you get what you want, but then 3-4 years you're like, man, why did I end up leaving, or why didn't we make this work out? And vice versa. It happens with the Bengals too. You got to be thinking about that with Jonathan Joseph and stuff like that. So hopefully these things get worked out. Jesse definitely deserves to be compensated as such. But we're at the impasse that we're at right now. It's very uncomfortable, I think, for Who Dey Nation. But like Zim is saying, this is a draft that is loaded at safety. Where It would be completely cheaper for them to do something like that.
I'm not saying that they should, but somebody.
But that's not what you're saying that they should do. But that's what, if we just look around the NFL, that's what teams do, right? Like, a lot of teams are going to look at it and be like, all right, well, I have these safeties, or I have these players that are available to me at a fraction of the cost, and I have to pay, this other area. Like, that's just a part of it with football. That's what comes with it. Like, you got to have your leverage. You got to know when you have leverage, and you got to know the gravity of like the situation. And one thing I'll bring up real quick is, remember Andre Smith? Andre Smith had a similar kind of thing with like the extension kind of thing. And the Bengals literally waited until the 11th hour of that draft. I think it was the same year he was, had to sign an extension, and they were willing to draft another lineman and use that as like the tool in their shed to get him to accept the extension. Like, teams just do kind of things like that all of the time to kind of have whatever kind of, advantage that they can have. And for me, if both sides can come to an agreement that's respectable for both sides, you can get it done. And, the Bengals end up honoring their word. I mean, he's still extremely young. Like, they've paid guys that are 34, 35 sometimes into those contracts. And so if they can come to some kind of mutual ground, that would be, not to dwell on it too much, but that would be preferred, obviously. But we got to prepare for it to go either way. And Jesse and his family have to prepare for it to go either way as well.
So what I was saying, they would go to the draft, and I think I kind of got lost in it a little bit, but the original question was, I was asking, do you think it would get done? For me, I don't think it would get done because of a lot of different factors. Because I think the Bengals probably put their foot down at this part, and we'll see how it plays out. I think that if it does get done, it had to be a situation where Jesse just goes straight to them and just says, hey, look, let's get this 15. Like, I'm just this is a rumor, like 15.5, 3-4 years or whatever. But the next thing I was going to say is, somebody was telling me earlier, they were like, I was talking about drafting like a wide receiver mid-round, a kid from Memphis or something. And they were saying something about like getting weapons. And I was like, honestly, I feel like going into this draft, I feel like you're almost approaching it with the same concept like on defense, where we're just looking to get weapons on defense as well. Because for me, most of the starting spots on this team, like, we don't have the problem that a lot of teams have right now. Like, even if you consider Jesse Bates like like a fringe player or whatever you feel like you have at this point.
He's a dog.
Well, I think a lot of people are saying like, well, Jesse Bates, I mean, during the regular season he wasn't but either way, you have to go get some more talent at all these positions. And my draft philosophy, I guess, coming into this anyway, was always to go get like more depth at the position, more versions of hybrids or anything like that. Guys that can play, that can check tight ends and corners and potentially be safeties anyway. The Jesse Bates tag thing, I think, kind of goes hand in hand with that too, because say that they do go and draft the safety early, then the writing's kind of on the wall for him. So like now, I just think it creates like a bad situation where he probably wouldn't come back to make that deal happen then, because now the writing's on the wall and you will already feel like a certain type of way anyway. Like you're not going to draft a free ranging safety early in the draft and then think that they're going to come back and re-sign Jesse Bates too. And no player wants to play on that tag like 2 years, because just taking y'all inside of a mind of a player is like, all right, say I get tagged. Yes, I am currently he's the third highest safety in getting paid in the National Football League. But it's not a guarantee that when the season is over, he comes away from it 100% healthy, and that's the major key. So going into this draft, I'm just trying to come in. I'm trying to just load up at all these positions, but more so defense than anything. I think early on the potential for a starting offensive line player is going to be there. Even the first or the second round, I think there's a potential tackle like a guy like Penning could fall. We talked about Zion Johnson on the last pod. I think he'll 100% probably be there. It's a bunch of guys, because on one rule of thumb, there's a lot of people that say, well, Zim, every time I name somebody, they'd be like, well, that guy's not going to be here. But you got to do the math. There's 31 guys or whatever that are going to, or 30 that are just going in front of you. 3 of those guys are going to be quarterbacks, 2 to 3 on a minimum. There's one linebacker that everybody wants, the kid from, I think, Alabama. He's going to be gone. So now you have 4. Then you got the one safety, Kyle Hamilton from Notre Dame. That's 5. Then there's 6 wide receivers that always go in the first round the last 2-3 years. So now I'm at 11 guys already that we weren't even looking at. So then I get into the next step. I'm like, all right, so I'm looking at 3-sack offensive line, corner, and edge, right? Those are the 4 positions. And then you could and I say offensive line, right? So guys like Tyler Linderbaum, I think could be there, because you're only battling against 20 teams that want this. I looked at the numbers earlier today. There's only 3 teams that need a center. And out of those 3 teams, only 2 of them really have a zone scheme. So I can only see like one of those 2. Those 2 teams also need corner. So like say he gets that, then you get a corner earlier. And I feel like the same thing could happen to safety too. It could happen like where a guy falls where he shouldn't have. And that's how that could play out. But the free agency stuff is kind of crazy. We're going into this part where now we're looking at guys like the Russell Wilson deal gets done today. I thought the deal was very, very one-sided. Maybe I'm a prisoner right now, but I feel like the Broncos really came off. 2 first-round picks, just so people know the history of the National Football League. When a quarterback is that good and he's like that promising, teams give out a lot. Like if y'all remember what they were about to give us for AJ McCarron, you feel me? So like think about this. So RG3 was traded for 3 first-round picks and then some, right? They just gave him 2 first-round picks, a Shelby Harris that was probably only under contract for another year anyway, Noah Fant, who we all like, but I mean, you could go get you know what I'm saying? I think that's why in NFL it's hard to trade players, because when you're trading players, you're assuming like the liability that comes along with them. And I'm not even going to mention Drew Lock, because doesn't even have a part of – that's just the guy that they can have battle with the guy that they're about to draft, right? So, like, somebody asked me, how does that work with the Bengals? I think it kind of helps the Bengals that it now loads up that AFC West a lot. So now the Chiefs are now maybe not the higher seed now. Maybe we're playing for the higher seed every single year now, because they're battling out with Denver and them every year. That's the one aspect I didn't think of. It does make your path to the championship game. Now there's one less Derek Carr. Now there's one less Ryan Tannehill. You know, so it's two different ways to look at that. Like, how did you think the Russell Wilson trade kind of worked out?
I would say this. Like, I still feel like Seattle came out good in that trade because the Seattle Seahawks were in a situation similar to like the Cincinnati Bengals. Now, I'm not comparing Russell Wilson to Andy Dalton, but they were in a situation where they said goodbye to the Legion of Boom, right? They invested in Russell Wilson. As a result of that, a lot of the pieces that they had on that defense when they were drafting good ended up going away. You lost Richard Sherman, you lost Earl Thomas, you lost Cam Chancellor, you lost the identity of that team defensively and invested solely on offense, right? But then the issues started to also arise where, just like Andy Dalton, the offensive line wasn't as good, right? So they ended up with a really good quarterback in Russell Wilson, but with a team not good enough because they haven't drafted well over the years to really compete. So really, like, they were just kind of attached to Russell Wilson in his contract to just really not compete in a division that has Kyler Murray and the Cardinals, that has the 49ers, that has the Rams who just got Stafford. Like, the Seahawks were really kind of a foregone conclusion. So for them, it really was the right move for them to move on from Russell Wilson. And it sounds crazy because they weren't in a Super Bowl window anymore. The Super Bowl window that he kind of had for them, they already went. They never really got back. They really were just kind of turning their wheels in mud at this point. And so I think that the Seahawks were good to get out of that deal. To get what they got back for him, I think they had a sweeter deal allegedly on the table from another team, but he would have stayed in the NFC. And so they wanted to go with this deal. To me, it's kind of like 3 first-round picks just because I'm including Noah Fant as like that 3rd first-round pick. They got 2 second-rounders. Like you said, the Shelby Harris is probably just a throw-in really at that point. They get a young bridge quarterback in return with Drew Lock. So, like, for them, I feel like, yeah, they weren't really going to compete this year anyway, and we saw how ugly it got when Russell Wilson went down. The only thing that I have to see to really understand and grade the trade is how much of the dead cap is going to affect them, because if they do get out of this Russell Wilson deal and they do get more cap for the future, that's going to help them build. But the one thing that I don't like about this, if it was anybody else, I would trust them with those first-round draft picks. I do not trust the Seattle Seahawks with any first-round draft picks. If you look at any of their first-round draft picks lately, they have all been trash. They have all been reaches. They have all been failures. And so for me, I could see, like, looking at their draft history, why one would be like, you just got fleeced for Russell Wilson because I know you're not going to do anything with those picks versus another team. So, I get why they did it because they kind of were at a standstill and, the Seahawks just really weren't going to compete, I feel like, in the NFC as a champion, even with all of the players that they had there. And so really it's a situation that the Bengals were in, and it's a situation that the Baltimore Ravens are going to find themselves in soon. Like, once you pay that $50 million or that $40 million to your quarterback, you better make sure the rest of your team is straight for you to at least be able to compete for Super Bowls. Because if it's not, and you have these deficiencies, it's going to be a struggle.
You gotta, yeah. I just feel like the landscape of the NFL, like, that's just the name of the game now. If you don't have a quarterback, like, what are you gonna do?
What are you doing?
And in the AFC, to me, I was very surprised that Russell Wilson even took that route. To me, because if I'm him, I'm just thinking to myself, like, why would I come to the AFC where all of the most dominant quarterbacks are at? Like, to me, it made no sense. But I guess he had his own reasons, right?
The one thing I'll say about that is, I've always kind of called the AFC North like one of the hardest divisions in football. The first answer that people always give me back when they like push back on that is the NFC West. He's coming from the NFC West. So he's literally, I guess, in his eyes, he's already played in what most perceive as the hardest division in football. So I guess he feels like coming over to the AFC West, but really he's got to think about the conference, the AFC in general. I guess he feels like he likes his chances over here the same, I guess. But It's going to be an interesting battle, like you said. How is that division going to really balance against each other? The Raiders, I'm still not completely sold on. Kind of want to see what they do with Derek Carr before I just anoint them as the best division in football. But yeah, it was an interesting day for sure. I think that for the Broncos, it makes perfect sense. I think it makes sense for both sides, honestly, just like where they're at with their franchises, like Denver needing a quarterback. But it's gonna make it really interesting. But I still love our 5 players over there. I'm gonna say that over there.
Right. And I look at like a lot of these teams, like even I feel like Denver now is in the conversation for sure because as we saw, their defense is super legit. So I feel like that they're in the conversation. Me and you had an interesting conversation. I think that really came full circle today because remember early in the season we were having a conversation about Judy when we were about to play the Broncos, and you were telling me about how you like had some. You were like, "Man, we got to watch," and I'm like, "Look, they ain't got no quarterback, bro. They ain't no factor." Now it's come full circle because now Jerry Judy is going to look like Jerry Judy. Now Patrick is going, you know what I'm saying? Like Patrick was able to do that with bad quarterback play. So it's just crazy now that I look at the landscape of the AFC. It's like, you know, like some of this is going to get weeded out by just pure attrition, like people getting hurt. You know, like some of this stuff that remember before the season started, everybody was like, "Oh my God, Julio and AJ Brown together." And I'm like, Julio, I mean, is he going to be available? Like, it's the same conversation I had for OBJ. So some of these dudes, I feel like as we get into this, it's going to look scary for a lot of teams. But as a Bengals fan, I'm telling y'all, like, I don't really fear none of them dudes because it's the same conversation I had last all season. Who else? Show me a core. Like, these guys are trying to put together teams of 30-something-year-old guys to compete with these young boys. That's, you know, like, now our whole team isn't young. But come on, bro. Like the oldest person in our core is like 28, 29. These dudes is putting together 30-something-year-olds. Like, we might grab a 30-something-year-old or 30-year-old center or 32-year-old because we're in a win-now mode. But a lot of these guys that people keep on telling me about, I'm just like, I like those guys and I like their name. But this 2022. So like some of the stuff that they're talking to me, even and I love the heck out of Russ. I feel like Russ is that dude. But
nothing against Russ, but I gotta ask you this: Russell Wilson or Joe Burrow?
Come on, bro. Like right now, today?
Yeah.
Joe Burrow. Like
thank you. I think a lot of people like
I'm not saying that as a Bengals fan.
We always talk about Lamar. We always talk about Mahomes and any of that. But I think if you went out there today, I would hope that everybody would say Joe Burrow over Russell Wilson.
This is the thing. You're going to have a lot of ops, like when you talk online to people, like it's two frame of minds. Who is the more accomplished, or who is the guy you rather have? Those are two different.
2022, like you
right. So this that's what I'm saying. People going to try to flip that conversation a lot and try to make it like when I say I'd rather have Joe Burrow. I said I'd rather have Joe Burrow than Pat Mahomes, and people was like, "Bro, you're crazy." I'm like, "No, he's 25 years old, second year in the league. He goes to a Super Bowl. That like my path to victory looks like I got way more time. Like Pat Mahomes been in the league for a little bit longer than what y'all think, and I know that he's more accomplished and he's won a Super Bowl. I get that, but we talking about right now today. That's why when people ask me who is the best quarterback in the NFL, that's a different conversation than who would you rather have. If it was who I'd rather have, I'm not saying this because I'm a Bengals fan. It's Joe Burrow. Like, and if anybody says anything different than that, they either have a hidden ulterior motive where they don't like the Bengals, or they're just purely living off of the past. Because you can't watch Joe Burrow sweep Patrick Mahomes in a season and then look at him with Patrick Mahomes with a brand new offensive line and then say, "Oh yeah, I'd rather have Patrick Mahomes just because of what he did in the past." Like right now, we talking about Joe Burrow, 25 years old, went to a Super Bowl. So don't like you could tell me Rush, you could tell me Aaron Rodgers. I'm gonna say Joe Burrow. I would say Justin Herbert in the same conversation too. I'd rather have Justin Herbert than Russell Wilson than all of them dudes. I'm not really high on Josh Allen. but I'd rather have Josh Allen than Aaron Rodgers. I don't think I would rather have Josh Allen than Russell Wilson because I feel like Josh Allen is always going to revert to his old ways, and he's always going to make a mistake, just like Stafford did in the Super Bowl. They're all like gunslingers. This is a really good. I just want to say this real point. This point, the people that are super critical on Lamar Jackson, like running the football, I think that those guys have a better chance, like the Deshaun Watsons of the world and the Russell Wilsons of the world that improvise and scramble, and Patrick Mahomes that scramble. I feel like they have a better path to winning a Super Bowl or winning games. Even Lamar Jackson, I feel like they have a better path to winning games than gunslingers. And gunslingers are Brett Favre's. Those are Matt Stafford's. Those are Josh Allen's. Those type of guys. That's my person.
Josh will run now too.
He will run, and that's what makes Josh Allen special to me. That's what makes him special to me. But how long did it take Josh Allen to get like that? How did he didn't come into the league like that? He came into the league on some gunslinger stuff. And whenever he gets into a real big game, with the exception of the playoff game that they tried to tell us was the AFC Championship game this year, he generally goes back to his old way, just like Matthew Stafford did in the Super Bowl. He threw 2 picks. And he didn't have to. He had the line. He had the protection. All he was doing was just running around scrambling, doing nothing for a whole half of football. And then, then he gets bailed out on a 3rd down at the end of the game. And then we forget, like his quarterback rating in the game was like a 50. And people were telling me like he outplayed Joe Burrow. I'm like, nah, bro. Like, I get it. But somebody in the comments did say Josh Allen been running, but cool. But when it's time for him to throw, he's going to revert back to his old ways. For me, I like guys that are more methodical. I'd rather Aaron Rodgers.
Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson are actually very, very
similar. Very similar. But Josh Allen's gonna put the ball in harm's way more, bro.
Yeah, I mean,
that's my opinion.
Like for me, I'm not gonna lie, I wasn't the biggest Josh Allen fan coming into it. I feel like him and Lamar have, like, when we're talking about weaknesses, I think that they have very similar weaknesses to each other, but I don't hear them get highlighted as much for Josh Allen as you hear them for LJ.
Facts.
And that's
you're not gonna hear that.
Yeah, like for me, I still think Josh Allen has clearly proven me wrong. So he's balled out. He's thrown for 4,000. That is something that you can say that Lamar hasn't done, but I think that they both are very similar in the excitement that they bring to the game. But I think Joey B, bro, is just on another level. I'm just gonna say that. I'm not saying that it's 2 or 3 levels, but I think that he's a class ahead of those guys, especially with where he's at right now. You talk about Lamar has had, literally an offense created for him, right? Josh Allen has had Brian Dable. What is he gonna look like without Brian Dable? A lot of people forget about what he was like before Brian Dable. And then we talk about Pat Mahomes. I'll throw him in there as well. And so many people try to act like it's crazy for people to say that, but at the end of the day, you got to realize Pat Mahomes had Andy Reid. Like, Joe Burrow didn't walk into Andy Reid, a coach who has been to Super Bowls, who has, done things with Mike Vick, done things with Donovan McNabb. Like, Andy Reid's an offensive genius. Joe Burrow, with what he's done, the trajectory that he's been on that quick, without having the resources that some of those guys have had, completely different story. So for me, I know we talking about Josh Allen and all of these other guys, but really the name of the game is quarterback. And if you don't have a Josh Allen, if you don't have a Joe Burrow, if you don't have a Lamar Jackson, if you don't have a Russell Wilson, you're not competing. That's just point blank, period. That's the statement that was made today for the rest of the AFC. So the Indianapolis Colts better figure out what they're going to do with Carson Wentz, a whole bunch of other teams. LJ, they better figure out if they're going to pay him or not, what's going on there. The Browns, they got to figure out who they're bringing in after Baker Mayfield, because you just saw what happened today. The Pittsburgh Steelers, you didn't get Aaron Rodgers. You didn't get any of these guys. You can't be coming in here seriously thinking that you're going to win with Mitchell Trubisky. If that's what you're going to do, or one of these rookies, unless you trade up, that's just not it. And the name of the game is really that quarterback. We got the quarterback, and we got guys that want to play with this quarterback, and I think that we'll see them coming next week. I think the Bengals are still at the top and still the preferred destination.
You made a good comment at the beginning talking about the Bates thing or whatever, and I know a lot of people come to me and ask me this about paying these guys and stuff like that. Like you're the reason why like people say, man, just go get offensive line. There's a part of me that always feels like you always have to think about like what is your future entail. I think my conversation with somebody earlier where I say I want Joe Burrow to be the highest paid quarterback in the National Football League. And the reason why I say that is because it's just like anything else in life. It's like when you invest in something that has been really, really, really great to you, it's going to come back to you tenfold. So a lot of people will be like, man, I want him to take a team-friendly deal. That's being selfish, and that's a point of entitlement, in my opinion. The reason why he needs to be the highest paid quarterback in the National Football League is because for everybody that talks to y'all every single day that says the Bengals are a poverty franchise, when I talk to the Joy Taylors of the world or all these other people that know nothing about the Bengals, they think that the Bengals still don't pay anybody. They think that the Bengals are still like some broke whatever. All the season tickets are already sold. The Bengals have all the money, all the TV money. They're going to get all the primetime games, all these different things. Everything is in their favor. It is their duty to pay the guy that got them to this point right now. If anybody wants him to get paid less, it's because you don't understand that early in his career, even Tom Brady or whoever y'all want to reference as somebody that took less, like nobody's taking less. Like when you go to your job and you fill out the application and everybody in that position gets paid $75,000, and that's the reason that you filled out that application, you want to get paid what those people are paid. Can you imagine Joe Burrow coming to work and name somebody like any of them dudes that Jimmy G getting $40 million a year and Joey B getting the same money? Like, do you know how that would make me feel if I'm him? And it's not even about the money part of it. It's just that I know I'm better than all these people, and I know my value is higher than that. It's up to the Bengals. Yeah, like Kirk Cousins or something. It's up to the Bengals. This is what happens. This is the magic around Joe Burrow. Guys on their third contract are going to now, those are the guys that are going to take less money. The guys that want to come here, the Gronks of the world, those are the guys that are going to take less money. If y'all ever want to kill this whole narrative of the Bengals are like cheap and stuff like that, pay this man like the most money in the National Football League, because that's who he is. That's what he deserves. And anything other than that is like some selfish entitlement, weak stuff that I just can't get on board with. And it goes hand in hand with every single year. Now, everybody on your team isn't Joe Burrow. Jesse Bates, as important as he isn't Joe Burrow. So you always have to go get talent. You always have to add weapons, because if you because there's going to be a Marvin Jones, as we learned. So people say, well, how are they going to pay T. Higgins, Jamar Chase, and Joe Burrow? The Bengals better figure it out, because them three better not go nowhere, right? But along the way, Jesse Bates can't get 18 to 20 million. So I got to go get me another safety as an insurance policy. Or Logan Wilson comes up. Von Bell, y'all got to forget, Von Bell is under contract only for one more year. So you better be going to go get his guy.
Jonah Williams coming up too.
There's a bunch of guys. That's why right now it's so important for them to go get the offensive line guys the guys want. But when y'all say crazy stuff like, well, it's not even crazy. I'm not going to classify it as crazy. When people get on board with paying high amounts of money to guys that haven't really deserved it, like a Terran Armstead or somebody like that, to me, I know he's really good. Is he head and shoulders beyond everything else that you could do? Like it's up to the Bengals to go exhaust all options, like the trades that you're proposing for the Cowboys. I posted the Balaga, Brian Balaga one earlier. If he's a cap casualty, he's to be had for $9-10 million. Diddy hit me earlier today. He said that what was that? Trent Brown for the Patriots, who just got $9 million. These are all right tackle guys that play at the same level as Terran Armstead and Laramie Tussle that you don't have. It's up to the Bengals to go exhaust all those options to go get those guys. But it should never come back to, oh, well, we had to pay Terran Armstead. We had to pay all these guys. So Joe Burrow, we ain't got enough money. What? You throw him the entire bag, and everybody around him is going to take notice, and everybody's going to buy in. When we get to Joe Burrow year 8, year 10, sure, Joe Burrow's going to take less. But right now, we not there yet. And every move that is done right now has to be in consideration of what's to come. Yes, Jamar Chase is going to be the highest paid wide receiver at his position. That's a long ways away from now. But every single year, you better have a plan. Well, I'm going to take $2 million here. I'm going to take $2 million here. We're going to put this $8 million to the side right here because we need that for Jamar. Jamar getting 30. You feel me? So, like, all the, you know what I'm saying? Like, all these different things happen. So, that's why I'm a little bit like, all right, on the Jesse Bates joint, like, bro, you are the third highest paid safety right now on the tag. That's not your value. I agree. But you got to go do something right now where you work with us too, because we're trying to build something really, really, really special. And he has every right to go wherever he wants to go if it doesn't work out here. But those are the things that the perceived market has to meet the actual market. So these things have to happen. And along the way, I just think they need to bolster up this defense through the draft. Because in free agency, they went out and got 8 guys. There aren't any. The only starting position available, is cornerback, number 2, and a 3-tech. Those are the only starting positions available. Anything else is to bolster the defense and bolster the depth of the defense and potentially a replacement. You could argue like maybe edge, but I mean that's just on third down with like if Osai didn't work out or whatever. You know what I'm saying? Like. You got some positions like that, but other than that, like it's really 3 positions on the offensive line. A tight end that I feel like Uzama is going to come back. I don't know if y'all been following me on Instagram. I've been adding him. I've talked to him before. You know, like I feel like the Uzama thing's going to happen. So some of the things like, and even Spain, you know, like let's talk about Spain for a quick second. Do we all really think that whoever the other option is infinitely better than Quentin Spain?
I had a dream, bro. I thought it was real.
Is it a big difference?
I thought it was a dream that like we extended Spain, and I just feel like I just take that as a sign that we're gonna probably bring him back. And I think when Frank Pollock talked about Spain, he kind of said some nice things about Spain. So
let me ask you though. I know you might not have seen everything on Lake and Thomason, right? But why is But all right, well, let's just look at this, right? Why is the fan base so gung-ho on, like, let's just get rid of the whole line? The Chiefs got rid of the whole line, and they had issues throughout the year. And mind you, when we got and played them in the playoffs, we had 4 sacks on them. So this concept of blowing it all up, like, I feel like offensive line play has to be unified at some point, and you have to have cohesion. Now, I agree, 3 spots should be brand new. Guard, right tackle, and probably your center. The left side of the line, I think, never was really.
The left side was never really a problem.
And when it was a problem, I feel like it was a product of the right side being so bad. Mm-hmm. And so when I get into the conversations about Spain, it's like, is Laken Tomlinson for $10 million a year, or probably more?
Can he not play right guard? Like why is it that Bengals fans are saying that he has to replace Spain?
Well, he played, but he played left guard for the Niners.
Okay, if I'm paying you $10 million, you better play right guard too. Like for me. But I think the average person, and I don't want to limit it to Facebook, but I think a lot of our Facebook viewers, they just say blow up the whole thing. Like forget that we just went to a Super Bowl. Like we don't care about that. Like the whole team isn't good enough. They got to a Super Bowl, but that couldn't possibly be good enough to like. I mean, both sides need improvement. I'm sure, right? I think your point is Laken Tomlinson worth paying him so much more than you would pay in Spain? And
right. No, go look at the numbers. Go look. I know. Like how many sacks did he give up versus Spain? Like what? I don't know.
Spain had a really good season last year. Like I don't know if people forgot that because they just think about the last play. But like Spain had a great year last year, honestly.
Right.
With the left guard. Left guard wasn't really on my radar. It kind of pissed me off that became the narrative that the entire line was bad because it really was just one side of the line. And you could argue also that the center of the line was definitely had some issues, but I never really questioned the left side of the line.
Well, I guess my whole thing is like you can't have your cake and eat it too everywhere. Like when like I don't know, I swear I don't want to say Facebook, but I swear it's only Facebook comments that do this to me when I see it on the right hand side over here. Where's the median? Where's the rational part of people that wakes up and says, all right, so look, I think I really like Jamar Chase a lot, so I know I'm gonna have to pay him a lot, or I really like T. Higgins. Like, why does it always gotta be something so extreme? Like, let's trade away all of these guys just so we can fix one problem and then create a whole nother problem. Like
cap is not real, bro.
Like what? Where's the real part come into this?
One quick second. Harold Landry just signed
I saw that
year $87.5 million deal.
I saw that.
The salary cap isn't real, bro. I thought the Titans were in cap hell. Like, what's going on right now?
Bro, you could restructure, you could front end it, like you could do a lot of different crazy things. Like for billionaire own, like guys, like teams like the Rams, Cowboys, like guys with like billionaire owners and stuff like that, the salary cap 100% isn't real. Like the Patriots do not care about that. But like I'm just saying, like if we're gonna just go get every Terran Armstead, go get all these guys, right? Get the best of the best. What happens to everything else? Like, are we gonna factor in some of this other stuff? Like Spain level guard play on the left hand side is really good to me. It's above average. He played pretty well throughout the season. Jonah isn't what I would call elite at left tackle.
Seahawks just released Bobby Wagner, which we pretty much knew that was coming.
So like Logan Wilson and guys like, all right. So look. So to me, it's like, all right. So the center needs. They're clearly gonna upgrade. So then you get one Ryan Jensen. That's the big boy signing of the offseason. Let's in a hypothetical world. So then we just got to go spend every single dollar we got on the whole entire.
You wait until that second week. You wait until that second week, and you go and get Quentin Spain, and you go and get Connor Williams. Y'all gonna hate it. That's an upgrade, and you go and get somebody. I
don't feel.
You get Linderbaum in the draft.
I feel like Connor Williams. I know I bring up the penalties.
James Daniels, whoever you want to put there.
See, I like James Daniels, but like the Connor Williams thing to me though, like him, I feel like his penalties. I feel like he's got a lot of Alex Redmond in him. A lot of Alex Redmond in him. Super penalties, super grabby, super like detrimental to like a drive type of dude. Like when you watch him, when he plays really well and he's mauling people, he's a beast and he's gonna lay on you and pancake guys and everything like that. But overall, is he that much better? Like that's the part that's killing me. I just feel like people are just
much better than Jackson Carmen.
Yeah. do I want Connor Williams on it? Like, see that to me, the goal is coming to the draft with 2 new offensive linemen, period, from free agency. Aside from that, Bengals fans have to be able to give and take different things. We express different things with the trade. We express different things when you go to the draft. Perhaps you go get your guy at the beginning. It then casualties afterwards. But this concept of, if they don't go get Terran Armstead and they don't get all the big name guys just because you're like fixated on it. We do this every single year. Remember the year when it was linebackers? And I got so mad because everybody was like, they got to get a line. And they drafted 3 linebackers and people still were like upset. You know, like, and it's just like this crazy witch hunt. And the reason why I care, people say, well, Zen, why do you care? Is because I feel like I'm a voice of the people to a certain extent. I realize that me and you have more followers than a lot of people. I don't have the most followers, but it seems as though people listen to me, players listen to me. So I like to be a voice to these different things. And I think right now they're not being really realistic with some of this stuff that they want to do.
This is all I'm gonna say because the Connor Williams stuff to me is getting out of control.
The penalties.
What if I told you that Connor Williams is nowhere near the top of the NFL in penalties? Like there's guys like Leatherwood, Jawan Taylor, Josh Jones, Wyatt Teller. Like there's a whole bunch of more linemen. Austin Jackson. Oh, I'm sorry. He is near the top. I missed him.
Right. He's up there. So, yeah, I'm about to say, wait, I was about to ask you what year was this, sir? But that's not even the point. I feel like Connor Williams is really good, but I think people got to understand, like, just because one thing the Bengals aren't going to do, and it's the same thing I'm going to do. I ain't bidding against a room full of people. I'm gonna talk to you directly in the back room, and we're gonna work out a good deal, and we're gonna do some stuff. And I'm gonna pop up when y'all see me and Ace with these crazy interviews and stuff like that. I'm not going out to Twitter and saying, "Hey, would you guys like to come on my show?" And then start up a bidding war of all these other shows, saying, "Hey, can we get guys on it?" I'm gonna talk directly to you. I'm gonna talk to you like a man and say, "Look, this is what I could do. This is what I want to do. This is why I F with you. This is why I think that you're a cool person."
Here we go. Okay.
And that's how you do a deal. Like, why do you want to go to free agency to go spend the most money? Like, I hate the free agency corners. I don't like any of them.
I gotta make up for me messing that up. All right, so Connor Williams, last year, 11 penalties, right? Or 14 total or something like that. 11 holding, 1 false start, and whatever, right? How many do you think he had the year before? And he played 16 games, started 16. How many do you think that he had?
Only because somebody told me this. It wasn't that many the year prior. Because this was a discussion on Twitter one day.
He had 5 in 2020, 3 holdings, 2 false starts. That was it.
I don't like JC Jackson because of the price. I don't want to pay that.
He had 5, and the year before that he had 6. So to think that he's gonna have 14 again, when he's more likely to have 6 or 5 than he is to have 14.
Stephon Gilmore is 32 years old, isn't he? Bro,
JC Jackson wants to be the highest paid corner in the NFL.
Right. I don't want to pay him that. Like, and I could go to the first round of the draft and go get a guy
I just paid Eli Apple peanuts, and he really had a good season as the second corner. Why would I do that?
And we paid Waynes all that money, right? Go get that money. Go give me 2 guards instead of trying to go give me 2 tackles. Go give me Brian Balaga and Morgan Moses combined or something. Like, go give me 2 guys for the same Trey Waynes money. I go to the draft and go get the corner. I already proved in our system, in a zone press system, all you have to do, he's aided by Von Bell, Jesse Bates, Awuzie, Mike Hilton, and company, and now an even more explosive pass rush. The second safety doesn't have to be some man-to-man guy that you leave on the island, bro. The Super Bowl thing is not on Eli. I'm going to just straight up say it on the show. The Super Bowl thing, to me, is a product of the coaches putting guys in bad position. Eli Apple should never be one-on-one. There's nobody that should be one-on-one with Cooper Kupp. And I think a lot of this stuff that gets put out on the internet about Eli Apple being toast, I think it starts to wear on Bengals fans. They're like, yeah, you know what? But Eli Apple played pretty damn good for the whole season. With that said, I think that that position does need to improve, but I don't need to pay the highest paid in the NFL to go get him.
There is. I'm gonna just put this up there, bro. There is not like a $25 million plus difference between Stephon Gilmore, JC Jackson, and Eli Apple. Like, I'm not here saying Eli Apple is elite, right, but you're not gonna tell me that
right,
and Eli Apple $1 or $2 million is the same as paying these guys like 20+ million, and they're that much better than him. They're not even that much better than Cheeto. They might not even be better than Cheeto if we keeping it a whole 100. So
for me, we go back to age in the conversation we were just having about quarterbacks. Who would you rather have? Like, other fan bases might think I'm crazy or whatever. Who would you rather have, Stephon Gilmore or Cheeto Bay or Awuzie? I'm going Cheeto. Like, that's a no brainer, bro. Like, you can leave them on the island, and I'm picking youth every time. When cornerbacks and wide receivers and running backs shoot when they hit 28. When corners get to 30, they go off the island. Like, I don't buy that Stephon Gilmore stuff.
I'm not don't buy that. Say that Stephon Gilmore isn't good, but the Patriots, he wasn't worth it. The Patriots were going to release him. Don't forget that. They decided that the money that they were paying him for the play that they were getting was not matching. And so no, I'm not going to match them and give him a whole bag for a guy that's over 30. Now, if he wants to take a deal and he wants to come and play with me, because I got Joey B and I got the Migos. You want to come here for like $8 million or something, then we can talk. If you want to do something like that, we can talk. But no, I'm not giving you 20 or 30 million. We didn't even give Cheeto that a year. And look how well he's played for us. Like, they're not going to go out and hand JC Jackson or these guys like that. And I will say it again. Eli Apple, the way that he played last year, there is not a $20 or $30 million a year difference between him and those guys. That I would say is the gap isn't that wide.
You only gonna hear that thought, a rational thought from a Bengals person that's watched them for a whole entire season, like we have him.
Don't forget BW Webb. That wasn't too long ago.
Right.
That wasn't too long ago.
But I'm saying like people think that we're crazy when we start talking about Eli. But the only game that he gave up any type of yards is the one game where we played the Browns where there was the blown coverage. Right. And then remember the dude Peoples Jones had a 75-yard touchdown. That's the only game that Eli gave up. Now, I'll say that in let's put it in the context. With our scheme in a zone press coverage, he's only going to actually either get left. He's going to either carry this guy to the inside, or he's going to have to play the hashes. That's his.
I see somebody talking about 8 or 9 picks. Most good corners don't get a whole bunch of picks, bro. Most good corners don't get targeted. They don't have a bunch of picks. Like we could talk about Diggs and all of these guys that get a bunch of picks, but if you talk about the Jaylen Ramseys and the top guys of the world, they rarely have like 8 or 9 picks because no one wants to throw at them.
Now, for me, I will say that people won't think I'm a complete psycho for saying this. For me, I feel like there are probably better options than Eli. Like, and I think the better option is the draft. So when people say, "Do you want to bring them back?" I don't know. You know, like that. I don't know until I lead a draft for real, because I don't think that the market for Eli is going to be crazy just because of the antics online. I feel like he's done that to himself, and it kind of works in our favor. Because I'm like, if I come out of the draft, I know they probably still going to be sitting there. Somebody could sign him, and people going to be thinking that they're crazy. But if they watch the tape, bro, like he played pretty damn good. But I just think that you should always be looking to upgrade a position on the guys that aren't part of your core. I'm not saying that Jesse Bates, we should have been looking to upgrade the position, because to me, he's a top 3, top 5 at his position. It's just the insurance policy based off of what's transpired. Eli Apple's situation is very different. That's the only open spot on our team right now on defense. When you go to offense or whatever, I think a lot of different things that we said in this show all lead me back to Joe Burrow. It's like when Joe Burrow gets paid X amount of money or whatever, there's a lot of things that have to happen around us. We have to set ourselves up for it every single year and always be thinking about him, Jamar Chase, in the possibility of the Migos at some point 2 years from now, like maybe not being together, because I could see guys, Tyler Boyd is going on his 3rd contract, not to count somebody else's pockets, but his mindset is totally different than what we're talking about for Joe Burrow or Jesse Bates. This is the first time that Jesse Bates is supposed to get paid his real big salary. This is his one chance. Just like Joe Mixon on his last one, that was his one chance where he's going to get that one big contract, right? Tyler Boyd, that's a person that might say, you know what? I want to keep on running with Joey B. So I'm going to take a pay cut. Or there's going to be another suitor out there like the Baltimore Ravens who can't draft wide receivers, and he killed them on New Year's Eve, so they won't forget that. And then there'll also be a Patriots that'll always be sitting there right there waiting for all of our players to fall off, right? So, you know, that money right there, that'll be there too. But like you said, the grass isn't always green on the other side. And I think Tyler Boyd, like that's the type of mind frame that people got to kind of get a little bit realistic, I think, when we start talking about contracts. It's a difference between your first contract versus Tyler Boyd, who's got paid on his 3rd. You see what I'm saying? So it's just different, bro.
Nah, it's definitely just different. But don't be a prisoner of the moment, because when you look at all of these free agents, just realize that somebody felt like it wasn't worth for them to be kept there. They weren't worth the money or the investment that it would have been. When you're looking at these guys, and I respect J.C. Jackson, I think the term elite is being thrown around a little too much with his name, because I can't sit there and say that he's better than Denzel Ward, Jair Alexander, Jaylen Ramsey. I don't know if he's worth getting paid that much. And if the Patriots, think about this, if you are in a passing league and you have an elite shutdown corner, why are you letting them walk into free agency? Does that make sense? Some of these guys only get there because teams don't feel like they're worth that investment. If you have a young corner in J.C. Jackson that is that young, and he is Jaylen Ramsey, Jaylen Ramsey will probably, you can say we talked about Jaylen Ramsey on this show, but let's not act like J.C. Jackson has the resume of a Jaylen Ramsey, because you will probably never see Jaylen Ramsey until he gets older ever hit free agency. You will never hear a Jaylen Ramsey hit free agency, like a corner like that in their prime. So when you're looking at these guys like J.C. Jackson and stuff like that, it was William Jackson last year, by the way. Just know certain players are never going to make it to the market, and there's always a reason that a player made it to the market. Doesn't mean that they're bad, doesn't mean that they aren't good, but it means that that team felt like they weren't worth it.
I agree.
So with that being said,
I agree. Like, I mean, there's nothing, you know, like I these guys, like, I think that's what I came to is like, bro, we are in the driver's seat. The core is strong. I like everything that's going on. Everything isn't going to happen the way that we want it. The Jesse Bates thing is unfortunate. From a business standpoint, I get it. We got to, you know, figure out that stuff. When we go into the draft, though, I think now safety is now on the table, right? Because we got to have something, especially when you talk about Von Bell as well. But
one thing
overall,
the Bengals do when they're in those situations, sometimes they'll go out and get the replacement in these situations.
For sure. I mean, look at AJ Green. They literally went and got T. Higgins, like, and said, like, this is a guy that does exactly what you can do. We're gonna go get that guy right now, and we're gonna get him the first day because he just fell right in our lap, and we can't move on from it. I always wondered if T. Higgins wasn't there, where would they have gone with that direction? I'm so glad it worked out in that way. My guy Andrew PFF had a great tweet today. He said, man, the Packers are going to unload Jordan Love for peanuts when they should have just picked T. Higgins. Overthinking situations and doing stupid stuff. Because you remember, Packers was on the clock, and they picked Jordan Love, and they're going through all this crap with Aaron Rodgers. If y'all didn't know, Aaron Rodgers signed his extension because he's a coochie, and he just wants to play in the NFC, and that's a prima donna, and I can't wait to cook him up something special. Do we play them? We don't play them again this year, right? You know, I don't keep up with that type of stuff.
I'm not even sure.
I feel like he stole an MVP from Joe Burrow, and that's my real thoughts. If you telling me that Joe Burrow is the most sacked quarterback in the NFL, and I just went to the Super Bowl with him, and I lead in completion percentage, yards per, your quarterback rating is damn near, he's a 1 percent higher in quarterback rating, Aaron Rodgers is. I threw for more yards. Joe Burrow won every single category, and he was sacked more. Why is he not the MVP? I've always asked that question, but nobody could tell me other than you got to pay your dues, Zim. Well, I'm paying my dues. I paid my dues when I tore my damn ACL. So now, and then I come back. Oh, okay, you gave me Player of the Year. All right. Then I go all the way to a damn Super Bowl. Like, I mean, he's the most valuable guy in the league, and it's not even close. So with that said, I just think everything around him, players got to buy into this thing, just like the Gronks and all these other guys and that want to come here and all that type of stuff. It's just, if y'all want to get
Gronk is brought in, but Gronk, if I'm speaking to the camera, Gronk, if you're watching this, you got to come here for 1 year, $5.5 million, bro. That's all we can give you, bro. If you want to come and play with Joey B, then you're gonna have to take that pay cut if you want to come and get this ship, because we ready. We can't give you no 8 or 10 million. Like, that's not happening, bro.
It's 100% ready. I want these are a couple of takeaways from today. I want everybody to think a little bit more rational when we start. We do this all season. It's the main reason why me and you had the damn Civil War last year. It's like when we're missing or when a position doesn't get to the level that we expect as Bengals fans, everybody goes in this wild rage of a witch hunt to say everything's bad. Let's blow it up. It could not have been bad if you got to a Super. You got to the Super. Let me rephrase that. The offensive line was not good, but you were able to outweigh those deficiencies all the way to a Super Bowl. So this reactionary rage, you're like, blow the whole thing up. Relax. Quinn Spain is a legit dude. Jonah Williams is a legit dude. They're going to upgrade his center, whether it's to the draft or Jensen. We come back, get the new right tackle, get the new right guard. Riley Reid, please come back. I want you for depth so I don't have to have Adeniji on the bench. The key to me is the Carmen off the bench, Adeniji at tackle, Deontay Smith as your future tackle when we get to 2025. Like, look at the depth behind the guys. You think any of our ops got any of that behind them? The Ravens just signed Cedric Ogbuehi to start on their 53 roster, and we talking about our depth and everything. Like, go look at the Steelers line. Like, look at these teams. They don't have any, like, bro. They're not understanding.
Somebody asked for J.C. Jackson's PFF grades. 78.9.
It ain't higher than a Woozy.
That was his best year. It's not an elite grade by PFF metrics. 69.5 the year before that. 68.2, 69.3. And that's the dude that y'all was just comparing to Jaylen Ramsey. Don't ever do that again in your life.
Right. And another thing I want to tell y'all too. This craziness that says that Joe Burrow is going to retire or some other. Joe Burrow should never be sacked that many times in an NFL season. Joe Burrow should never have that much pressure on an NFL season. So the front office and everybody needs to do everything within their power to make this thing right. But that doesn't mean mortgaging your whole entire future to do so. And that's my only point. They gotta do everything. And that doesn't just mean just go buy everybody. Like, let's try to figure out a way to go get some of the best talent, like Tyron Smith in a trade, Brian Bulaga as a cap casualty. These different guys that people like us are outlining for the Bengals to say, let's go get them. When last year we were in the same position, they didn't have to have Adeniji playing at right guard last year. We was in the same position, and everybody was saying, "Oh, let's go get Blythe. Let's go get the swing guard, swing center." Backup guy that could, be another depth piece, and they never went and got that guy. So then you were forced to play a young Adeniji out of position, and I think that's how you got there because Carmen didn't work out. So let's say you go get the best of the best right now. You need to make sure that the depth behind these guys is just as good. That's my other takeaways too. It's like, okay, get a Terran Armstead, but who you got behind him? It better be Reef level because it can't be Isaiah Prince level. And so that's how I feel about it. Like, and so I'd rather go give me a Balaga and another right tackle that somebody likes, name anybody above average, mid-level, really good guy, instead of blowing $28 million on somebody else. Let's go get two right. Let's go get two right tackles. Let's go get two guards. Let's go get two centers. Now we're talking. Now we can interchange. Now we got a battle royale and let the best man win.
Facts. So appreciate you guys for tuning in. We went a little long. Appreciate you guys, but it's free agency is that season. So we're going to keep you guys up to date with a lot of things. I know a lot of people asked about the free agent mock. We'll have that.
We can do that next.
And you guys definitely be sure if you are hungry still and you want to check some things out, check out the sponsor of the show, Midwest Best Barbecue. They got some dope things going on right now, especially for Lent and things like that with some shrimp. They got chicken wings. They've got ice cream, all kinds of things. So definitely be sure to check in with them. Stop in with my man Tim and tell them that Ace and Zim sent you because the wings is still popping, whether it's football season or the off season. And they got that brisket and all kind of things over there. So definitely be sure to check them out in Loveland. But Zim, we got to end this with a yes, sirski.
Hello, world. What separated your deep ball from everybody else?
My deep ball, it has a little secret sauce to it, man.
Never get too high, never get too low, but just keep moving.
The whole story is Carlos never beat me in any kind of sport.